everyone, and welcome to tonight's All Partner session, all about working with schools. So if you are a newer partner, I am Lucy and I'm Head of Sales and Business Development for Usborne Community Partnerships, and I am joined by the amazing Nicola White, who's one of our leaders, who will be giving you the kind of personal experience of working with schools and her tips and ideas. Nicola is one of our top school sellers, which is why I've asked her to help me tonight with this. So hopefully you'll leave with lots of ideas about how to work with schools and how to really increase your income. Nicola, I've made you a co-host. Would you mind letting people in from the waiting room as I am talking? And I'm going to share my screen with you all and my presentation. If I could just ask you to mute, just so we don't hear any background noise as well, that would be really helpful. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and talk you through the real basics of schools. So, your key information about schools is as follows. So you get 20% commission on your school orders. Your school orders tend to be a much higher volume than a party order. So schools is really where I would say you are going to get the highest volume of sales and therefore earn the most income from selling books. You can work with schools straight away and your mentor will be more than happy to help guide you in doing that. So if you are a newer partner and you would like to earn more money, and you've got a financial target, then I would say one of the best ways to hit that financial target is working with schools. So if you are newer and you think after this session, yes, I definitely love to work with schools, but I'm new and I'm worried about doing it, absolutely don't worry about it at all. Talk to your mentor and they will guide you through what you need to do to get started. As a partner, you can offer schools a generous free books package. So you can offer them up to 60% in free books. With an order, which is a lot more than other schools providers do offer them. So you are offering them a better package than other providers do. So you should have real confidence in that and take real confidence in that. And the biggest thing I want you to take away from this is that you can work with schools year round. So this is not something that is just World Book Day. This is something that can be done year round. As most of you know, I know a lot of you have already broken up for the school holidays. In the UK we haven't, and I'm actually going to an event with a partner tomorrow, which just shows you that you really can work with schools year round, because it's nearly the summer holidays and I'm still going to an event tomorrow with a partner, and I know Nicola is doing an event this weekend with a school as well. So absolutely you can work with them year round, and you should make this part of your business plan to work with them year round. So what can you offer schools? The real basics. So you can offer them a variety of different things. A book fair would probably be the thing people are most familiar with and the thing that schools are most familiar with. So this is where you go to the school, you take your books, and you can either sell the books you've got there and then, or you can display books and then take orders for those books, then put it through the system and then deliver those books to the school. Again, this is something that your mentor will be able to talk you through in more detail. I think people often think they have to have loads and loads of books for a book fair, but people will buy what you have. And particularly if you are taking orders, you just need one copy of the book that then 10, 15 children could order the same book that you then place through the system. So you don't need boxes and boxes and boxes of books. You just need to pick the right books that the children are going to want to buy. You can also offer sponsored reads or sponsored listens. So this is where children are sponsored to read, or they're sponsored to listen to books being read to them, particularly if they're maybe more of a nursery setting than a school setting. Then the school choose books that they want to get with that money. So say they raise £1,000, you would give them an extra 60% on top of that. So you would give them an extra £600 in books using the Usborne's free books package, and then they have £1,600 to choose their books. So it's a great way to get a large volume order quite quickly. You don't have to physically go into the school. So if you are someone who works full time and you maybe can't go into a school in person because you're working, or perhaps you are on maternity leave and you've got a really small child at home, this is something that you could arrange with any of your local schools completely remotely. And again, your mentor will be happy to support and talk you through that in more detail. But I think they're a great option for if you really want to work with schools and you're either time poor or you just can't work with school hours, then this is a really great thing for you to do to support your local community. Author events also exist. So this is where schools have an author come into their school, and they do have to pay an author fee, but that won't be a surprise to schools. They wouldn't expect to get a free author event. And then your role is to provide them with copies of that author's book. The author then signs the books and the children take them home, and it's a really exciting experience for them. So again, you could arrange this remotely. While it's great to go to the author events, and many partners will tell you it's something you should 100% do, you can do this remotely. So you could set up the event for the school, take all the pre-orders of the books of the parents and get the books delivered directly to the school. So again, something that you could do if you could not physically go into a school. Direct orders are another thing you can do with schools. These tend to come more commonly if you've already built a relationship with a school, but this is where a school say they would like 30 dictionaries, for example, and you work out with the free books package what you can do those dictionaries for. So they might pay for some and then you'd give them a certain percentage free. Again, this is a really quick, easy way for you to earn some commission and to offer your schools a better price than they would get from other retailers for that same order. Again, it is worth ringing around your schools. Do they need a class set of books? You can find out about those on the website. Do they need dictionaries? Do they need encyclopedias? Have they recently got a new library and they need non-fiction to fill it with? Whatever it is, you can offer them, using the free books allowance, effectively a discount on their order. You can also offer them lots of free resources. So on the website, in the schools section, there is a whole section on resources, which are free resources for schools and a great reason for you to get in contact with them to see if they would like to use any of those free resources. So why Usborne? Why you over another schools provider? The biggest selling point of you is you. So the biggest difference between Usborne as a schools events provider and other school events provider is you are the person that runs the event for them. So the teachers don't have to worry about it. So if that's a book fair, you would turn up, set it up, you would talk to the children about the books, and then you would process the order afterwards for the school. If you did a sponsored event, you would provide them with the sponsorship forms that you'd already set up for them. You would take the money and you would count through that. You would then process the order for the books. So all they have to do is agree to it. Same with the author event. They don't have to go back and forth with the author. You would do that for them. They don't have to sort the pre-orders. You would do that for them. So your biggest selling point is the fact that they get you. And with another provider, they don't. They don't get a dedicated person. They get a head office team and a creative book. They don't get a person. One of the big things we've been told when we've exhibited at school conferences is they don't want the fluffy pens and the cat diaries. So we recently went to the Pixel Primary Conference and saw quite a few broken teachers who had recently had to run a scholastic book fair. They had to do it all by themselves. They got no help. And then parents complained because they'd sent their child in with money to buy a book and they'd come out with a fluffy pen and a cat diary. And that's not the impression schools want to get when they want to book an event to boost literacy, learning, reading for pleasure. They don't want the children spending the money on pens. They want them buying a good quality book for them to read. We offer a more generous free books package, as I've already said, than any other provider. We have an amazing range of fiction and non-fiction for all ages. It's a common misconception that Usborne is a baby books publisher. You guys all know that is just not true. We have an amazing range of books for primary schools and secondary schools in both fiction and non-fiction. We don't have big name authors, we know that, but what we do have is amazing books that teachers will really get behind. And it is a flexible service. A lot of the teachers we met as well said they were concerned because they were in a rural area and would anyone even be able to come out to them? Or perhaps they were a small school, so they worried that maybe no one would want to do an event with them because they were a small school. We all know that's not the case at all, that you would work with absolutely any school. And we know lots of you are based in quite rural, remote areas yourself, and you provide a service that those children otherwise just wouldn't access. So how can you get into schools in the first place? Nicola, I'm sure we'll have more tips and ideas for you, but this is just a basic overview, which is to use your contents. Sorry, I can hear background noise. If anyone isn't muted and can mute, then please do so, just so we don't have that background noise. So my biggest tip to you is use your contacts. Who do you know who works in a school or who has a child at a school? So it doesn't have to be a teacher. It could be a teaching assistant. It could be a dinner lady. It could be an after-school club provider. It could be the person that goes in and does the music lessons, or just simply your niece's school or your godchild's school or your next door neighbour's child's school. Whoever it is that you know, use your contacts, because that is how you can get in, by contacting that school, saying you know a child that goes there, or you've already got a named contact within them. You'd be amazed, I think, by how many people you know that have a connection to a school. Online, there are loads and loads of PTA groups or friends of whatever school groups. Most of them have a Facebook group. And you can, an easier way to get involved with schools is to go through them. Most of them run summer fairs or Christmas fairs that are they're looking for stall holders for. So by getting in and having a small stall at one of those events could be a great way for you to then secure a bigger event, because you'll have then worked with the school and the teachers will know who you are, will know what you offer. And it is an easier way, by starting off small, to then secure a larger event. We're at a great time of year that we are about to hit the run up to Christmas. So they will be looking for stall holders, and this is your perfect opportunity. If there's schools in your local area you want to work with, contact the PTAs, contact the friends of, get in with them for their Christmas fair, and then make sure you secure that bigger booking for World Book Day or later on in the year. Phone them is my other tip to you. Emails are so easily missed, ignored, or just lost in the general overwhelm. So pick up the phone. I think if you really want to make a success of your school's business, you will be glad that you picked up the phone and spoke to a person, because then you can explain much more clearly what you can offer, rather than them thinking it's just another thing that they've got to staff themselves and they just don't have time for. If you really can't phone them, or you just don't have the confidence to do that, then I would read up about the school on the website, see what their values are, see what their school motto is, see maybe what their Ofsted report has said or what their goals are, and use that in the subject line so that they know that you get what they're about. You're not just like putting the same email out to all your schools, that you get what they want, what they need, and they're more inclined to listen to you. So I would say if you have to email, make it more personal to them. Don't just send a generic email, and try to avoid things like free books for your school in the email headline, which could be seen as spam. So think about what they need, more like boosting reading for pleasure, or like increasing reading levels, or supporting learning English as a second language, whatever it might be. Use that as your subject line. So what do you need to know before you approach a school? I think, again, there's a perception that you need to know loads and loads of things, and you don't. You need to know what you're happy to offer them. If you don't want to invest in stock, don't offer them a book fair. If you, and I don't know, if you're worried about working with authors, or you're worried about schools, asking schools to spend money on an author event, don't offer them that. Just focus on, or if you, I don't know, can't do anything during the day, offer them a parents' evening. Don't offer them a book fair where the children are looking at it during the day. Like, say that you can go in the evening to do that. So only offer them what you are physically able to do. Don't offer them a book fair where they buy on the day. If you aren't able to invest in that level of stock, do an order only book fair. you need to know the main benefits of working with you. So the fact that you will do it all for them, the free books that they get, the personal service, the hassle-free service, that they're not annoying their office staff with counting money, that their teachers don't have to man the book fair. I would focus on a few key titles for each age group. There are thousands of books in the catalogue. You don't need to know all of them. You will sell what you take with you. So just a few key fiction and non-fiction titles for each age group will serve you really well. And I think it's helpful to have examples of what other schools have done. Schools love copying what other schools have done and are highly influenced by what other schools are doing. If you've never worked with a school before, that's absolutely fine. Talk to your mentor. What have they done with schools? Talk to people in the wider team that you're a part of. What have they done with schools? And use those as your examples. Absolutely fine. If you've never worked with a school before, use someone else's examples and explain what has worked for other schools in other areas. So I thought I would share with you, before I hand over to Nicola, just some key titles that I think would be useful for you to consider or have a little read up on the website if you're not already familiar with them. So, key fiction. This is based on my experience of kindly being invited to multiple different events by lots of lovely partners and by looking at our stats each month. So on the younger scale, you've got things like Billy and the Mini Monsters, these, and Piccadilly Stories, Unipiggle. Billy and Unipiggle have full colour illustrations, and they're short chapter books that are perfect for reception year one, so kind of like 5, 6-year-olds, 4-year-olds. Stick-a-Dolly Story. The amount of times I've seen children choose Unicorn Rescue at a book fair is unbelievable. My daughter absolutely loves these books. There are over 10 in the series. We have read all of them because she loves this series that much, and it's the only series she's fully invested in. She's 5. I would highly recommend Stick-a-Dolly Stories. Anisha Accidental Detective, again, good for your younger age range. These are funny detective mystery stories. They're highly illustrated as well, not colour illustrations, but they are very much illustrated. Slightly older, you've got A.M. Howell's Mysteries at Sea. These are historical mysteries, where the kids are the heroes that save the day. You've got Alex Neptune, that is good for fans of like Percy Jackson, which I think you would get asked about quite a lot at a book fair, and that is your go-to. You've got the 21% Monster series, which I think is just love the cover of. It just looks really cool. It's quite like sci-fi, fast-paced, feels quite like game-like. Shadow Hall Academy. I know lots of you on this call have done lots of school events. Kids seem to have gone from wanting funny books to now wanting spooky horror gothic books, and you just can't go wrong with those. I was at an event recently where the girls in year 5 and 6 were going absolutely mad for Tamsin Winter because the same partner had done an event with them 6 months before, and it was lovely seeing them excitedly discovering more books by her that they were actively looking for and recommending them to their friends. She's just like real easy read and like tween fiction. And finally, Sophie Anderson seems to be the name that most people recognise that don't know Usborne, aren't that familiar with our authors. This is the author that people seem to recognise, Sophie Anderson, who writes this beautiful fantasy books. Game books and graphic novels. The biggest selling books at any book fair for every partner, it seems, are these adventure game books. I think there's 4 or 5 now in the series, and they're where you choose what happens next to the character. So you read through the pages and it gives you an option. You pick which option you want, you go to that page, and then you see what happens to your character. If you take, like, this is your biggest book that you have to absolutely take with you to any school event, is an adventure game book. And we have more coming out. So there's quite a few in that one. This is Agent Arthur, which used to exist years ago, and they've reimagined it for a more modern audience, and it just looks fantastic. So this is the puzzle adventure series, so it's like a younger, simpler version of the game books. Younger still is this Super Squirrel range, which has just come out, these puzzle stories, which I think will be great for that 5 to 8-year-old boy that there maybe is a bit of a gap in the market for. You've also got puzzle adventures with the missing unicorn, and there's a mummy mystery coming out for that as well. And finally, graphic novels that really work, I know, with the rise of books like Loki, that kids like those highly illustrative styles, and these really fit that bill for that child that wants a different format, doesn't want the kind of traditional fiction book. Non-fiction and activities. This beginners series, they're really affordable, and they have them on all different topics. So anything a child might be interested in, we will have an Usborne beginners book about it, and they're very pocket money friendly. This series, the 4 Beginners series, is absolutely brilliant for older school events that you do, and the money one always seems to be the most popular. Your Sticker Jolly dressings are great, and it's a series that people are familiar with, so they're comfortable with, they know what it is, and kids just love them. Lots of things to know. Anything dinosaur related always goes down really well. And this is the younger version of 100 Things to Know, which is down there. Having more alternative books like baking, maybe for kids that aren't so into reading, actually having an option of a book that they can get really involved with that's more hobby related. This Extreme Planet, this Journey Through the Amazon seems to have gone really well. This is basically like a David Attenborough documentary in a book. They're absolutely beautiful, engaging books. 100 Things to Know, I know lots of people super excited about sport. That has now just come out. There's loads of different topics, and again, great for kids that maybe wouldn't consider themselves traditional readers. They are readers, they just prefer fact to fiction, and that series is perfect for that. Parents might not thank you for this, but the Super Planes to Fold and Fly, there's loads of different ones in this series, and they always seem to go down well. I know lots of you will say the same thing about the pet guides. They always go down a storm. And the step-by-step drawing books, the amount of children that have told me they like art and drawing at a book fair, so it's great to have something to offer them. But there are so many more that you could choose or explore. But like I said, you don't need to take all of them to your events. It's just good to have a selection. So that was a very brief overview of all the things you can offer and some key things to know. But now I'm going to hand over to Nicola, who is going to share her real life experience of working with schools and her tips for you.
Thank you, Lucy. That was really great. And it was actually nice seeing your top books to take with you, because in my notes, you pretty much put down every single one that I've put down as well that sells well me. So it shows that everybody's on the same page as well with books that do well with schools. So before we get into it, I just thought I'd introduce myself. For those that don't know me, my name's Nicola. I live in Peterborough, and I head up my team of booksellers, which is Ignite Division. I've got 3 boys who are aged 10, 8 and 5. My middle little boy, Jude, is in the process of being diagnosed as autistic. So my life at home is very, very hectic. But it's worth noting that in amongst all the chaos of mum life and all our other commitments that we have, working with schools can easily fit into your Usborne activities. I joined Usborne back in 2016. I'm actually celebrating my 8th Usborne birthday on the 15th of July, which is very exciting. I hit the ground quite quickly with Usborne and achieved my 4 quick start incentives within 1 month. However, I think it's worth noting that even though I had massive early success with Usborne and my quick start incentives promoting to team leader in just 4 weeks, schools at the time when I first started absolutely terrified me. Like, I thought that I wasn't qualified to attend schools. I thought I didn't know enough to advise them. It actually struck fear and anxiety into me, and I put off working with them for absolutely ages, which I now, looking back, really wish I hadn't done. So that's my first tip to you, is even if you are a new partner joining us on this session, look at how you can work with schools, get to know the offering, what we can offer. Lucy's obviously gone through very extensively of what we can offer. Explore your website, look at the resources available, and find out how you can work with them and what it is you want to offer. So I really do wish I had started sooner. When I think back to not only how much extra money that I could have earned across all those years that I put it off, but also the amount of extra children that I could have helped in those years, I really do. That is a big regret of mine. So I actually started ramping up my Usborne Schools business in around 2021. So we'd had a massive peak, obviously, during COVID. Business boomed. everybody was happy, the world was a wonderful place, we were all making lots of money, selling lots of books. Then we had obviously everything that's since followed, and we experienced quite a big downturn, which things like this are completely normal. But I needed to look at ways of which that I could then help my business and sustain my business, not only bringing in the money, but making it viable for me, because I do Usborne full time, and I needed to have money coming in. It's my wage, it what pays my bills. So in 2021, I decided that I needed to change things, and I needed to get over my fear of working with schools and really find out what it was we could offer, how I could do it, how it fitted in with my life and the time that I have available to me. And I just had to do it and leap in. So prior to that year, I had dabbled a little bit on and off with schools, but I wanted to point out to you that things don't always go swimmingly well, and that is okay. So my very first attempt at supporting a school was attending a summer fair right back when I first started in 2016. It was with a school in my village, and it was one that I thought would be super easy to get into. They were right around the corner, so it made sense for me to want to work with them. So I booked onto their summer fair as a way of getting in and as a foot in the door, and having that connection with the teachers. So was very excited, got all my bits together, planned like crazy. It was my first one. I really wanted to make a great impression. I had all my books there. I had all my bits and pieces. I turned up, I walked into the hall, and as I was putting my table up, looked across the hall, and there was another Usborne partner there setting up her stall as well. So they'd double booked us. We had a little chat, and we actually had quite different books available on our stands, and we're approaching things quite differently. So we thought we were both here. We both wanted to make the most of it. So we just carried on and said, you know what, we wished each other well and got on with things. Now, it was an absolute disaster. I think I sold about £15 worth of books. The other lady, I don't think, took anything at all. I had actually a gentleman come over to me, and he thought I was a secondhand bookstore. He started loading up on books. And when I said to him, do you want to pay cash or card? The colour from his face just drained. So it was an absolute disaster. However, after the event had happened, I followed up with the head teacher, who I had contact with. Now, the other lady obviously hadn't done the follow-up, or I don't know, she may well have, but I followed up with the teacher, thanked them for having me at the school, and then explaining that I could work with them in other ways. So from that disastrous event, that school is the school that I now work with most regularly. They regularly place about £5,000 worth of orders through me throughout the academic year. I support their book fairs at least twice a year. This year I'm actually in there 3 times. I do their parents' evening. They place an order through me for prize giving for an event that they do at the end of the academic year. I'm actually attending that assembly next week. And they just contact me out of the blue if they're wanting to order class sets and various other things. So I think it's worth noting that even from something that you think hasn't gone well at all, if you're willing to persist with that, do the follow-up, and still put yourself out there with them, that good things will follow. So other ways that I get into schools is, again, when I first started, it was working with them through their fairs. So their summer fairs, their Christmas fairs, any event of which they were running, I wanted to be there to help support them. Or if I knew that they were looking for raffle prizes for an event, or anything that I could support them with that might not have necessarily given me that first initial, oh, I've got lots of money coming in. In fact, it may have actually cost me a small amount. I was happy to support them with that, but that's where you can bring things into play, like your extra free books, like donating a raffle prize doesn't have to cost you the earth if you use your host books, which you may have got through previous orders, or a percentage of free books, which you already have in your stock. And I always then make sure that I'm following up with those people. So asking them how those events went, asking them, did they raise lots of money from their raffle? And then also obviously then outlining ways that I can help support them and work with them going forward. I work a lot with my frogs. So as Lucy mentioned, one of the great ways that you can get in with schools is utilising the connections that you already have. So one of the schools that I work with isn't actually local to me at all. In fact, it's down in Penzance, which I think it's actually the furthest southerly school in the United Kingdom. And that's about 400 miles away from me. Now, that contact came about from an ex-team member of mine who is a teacher. So she'd enjoyed being on the team for a number of years, but through personal circumstances, she left the team, but still wanted to work with me because she loved the books. She valued the service that we could offer, and she knew how great our free offering was of the extra free books. So I now work with them remotely. So every year we run a virtual book fair for World Book Day. And then I also run a virtual book fair in about November, December time, but present it as a Christmas shopping event. So it's technically still a virtual book fair, but it's for the parents to do their Christmas shopping for books. It works in exactly the same way, and schools still earn their free books. So I think that's worth noting, that you can work with schools all over the UK. It doesn't have to be within your locality. In fact, working with schools remotely may suit some people better if you're time poor and you're not necessarily either physically able to go into a school. You still have the option available to you to work with schools. So my business has been completely turned around since working with schools, since I realised in 2021 that's the direction that I wanted to go in. It's actually really quite safe to say that working with schools saved my business and kept me in Usborne full time and not having to go back to a full-time or part-time role. So it's now my school's business is on a climb. I'm working a lot this year with hospital schools, which is something I didn't actually know even existed until this year. I was contacted by a lady who I had a connection with when I was at a hospital Christmas market. She was actually an employee. Oh, can you mute for me? Thank you. What? She was actually an employee of a asset management company who does a lot of work with schools and government type bodies within the communities. And she contacted me following our discussion at the hospital market with wanting to approach me to work with schools all across the country. And that was a revelation to me. As I say, I didn't know that it was a thing. And I have done that remotely. So I have been working with, to date, 15 hospitals, and their requirements are quite different to what a sort of regular school might be. Lots of the books that they wanted, I wouldn't have actually necessarily thought would have been big sellers at a typical school event. They were wanting lots of mindfulness books. They were wanting things like atlases, number puzzles, all this kind of thing. So if you do have a hospital that's near you, it might be worth approaching them to see if that's something that you could do to work with the children that are there in hospital long term, because they still need books. It's just another string to our bow, and it's something different outside of the norm that other people may not have potentially thought of. So there are children there. We need to help them as much as we can, because I'm sure that that's one of the main reasons that people join Usborne, is that they're wanting to help children and they're wanting to encourage that love of reading for pleasure and increase literacy. So that's a big shout out from me, because I feel really passionately about doing that. And it's earned me quite a bit of money this year as well. I'm not going to lie. I'm not just in it for the fluffiness. It has earned me quite a bit of money. So I absolutely love working with schools, which I hope that you've realised. But as I say, that has come with time. It wasn't something that I was keen to do straight away, although, as I say, I wish that I had. So how can you start building these relationships with schools? So I think we've already touched on looking to reach out to potentially your frogs. So if you know people within your immediate circle who might have a connection to a school, whether that's on a PTA or a teacher, somebody's child that you know, your neighbour whose school they go to, that's always a great way in if you have that connection, because you're one step ahead and it's almost like having a foot in the door. Or even knowing who it is to approach at the school, so you're not going in blind. We want to try and avoid the whole cold calling type scenario. So think of ways that you can reach out to a school with working with them in mind that isn't going to come across as cold calling. So Lucy touched on how looking at their values and their mission statement from their website. This is really great idea. We did a fantastic session on this at Leadership Academy, and it's something that I would not have thought of before. So you can go on to their websites, look at their mission statement, and find out what their values are, find out what's important to them, and then you can be using this in your email correspondence or however it is that you're getting in touch with them. It just shows that you've done your homework, you know a bit about them, what's important to them, and you're going to come across as more credible. And it shows that you care about what's important too, which I think is really, really high up there. Be creative of how you get in contact with schools. So emailing is fine if you're finding a way of emailing that stands out. I think be careful that you're not ending up in people's junk boxes. Lots of schools have quite strict sort of firewalls and things in there that you might actually not be getting your email through. So I've quite often emailed a school and I've had it bounce back saying it's undeliverable because of the protection that they have on there. I've actually recently found out something I didn't know before, was that if you're emailing from like a Gmail or Hotmail, that kind of email, that sometimes they automatically bounce because the emails are protected. So I actually have a email which I've paid for through my domain name. So I'm the White House Bookshop. So my email address is nicola@thewhitehousebookshop.co.uk, and that gets through. And also, like we say about the headlines in the subject line, anything that you can do to make it look more credible and not spammy, so it's not going to go into the junk file. But also think about other ways that outside of email, because everybody gets so many emails. It's so easy to get lost in amongst all the noise of different things that schools receive. Schools get hundreds of emails, and I just think there are more personal ways to get in touch. So I'm quite a fan of an info pack. I have in my office some that are ready made up, so I can take them with me to events as well. So I have them in a bright envelope, and I have all of our school's information in there, and I can hand them to people should they inquire. There's nothing stopping you taking an information pack into a school direct or mailing one to them in the post. Just something a bit different that gets you in front of them and is a bit more exciting than reading an email. This morning, I have just sent out a Google form for booking school book fairs in the autumn term, which this is actually a fantastic idea. It's so easy. I can't take credit for it. I'm going to have to give the credit to the lovely Rachel Shaler. She gave me the inspiration for this, and I've run with it today and actually had a booking for a book fair from my Google form. It's really straightforward. Makes it so simple for the school to book. It's literally just some tick boxes of what dates I'm available in the autumn term. I've put a picture in there of a school book fair which I've taken. I put the graphic in there of how much free books that schools can receive. And with my picture of the school fair, I've made it quite clear that we do everything for them, and they don't have to have a teacher to help set up. They don't have to have a teacher to take the money. because that's actually something that's quite common, that people just don't realise that we do everything for them. The school that I have had book me today, I've actually previously used Scholastic. This is the first time they will have used Usborne. And the response that I got from them when I said, I don't need a teacher to help, or I don't need the PTA to help, they couldn't believe their luck, honestly, because they were just so time poor. They didn't have the resources, or it just filled them with dread wanting to do it themselves. So when I said I could take all of that hassle off of them, they were just, I could almost see the relief like come over them, that they really loved that. So make sure you're selling that to them, that you do absolutely everything. They don't have to wheel in the bookcases. They don't have to have people there handling money. It's just making sure that we're putting out what we can offer and that people know about it. So in terms of my best sellers at book fairs, so Lucy obviously ran through some great options, and quite a lot of those are my best sellers as well. However, having attended the schools workshop at head office earlier in the week, lots of the other top schools sellers there were selling lots of non-fiction, or primarily non-fiction or curriculum-based books. I have to actually say that isn't the case for me. So my top sellers for school book fairs has always been our range of fiction. Our range of fiction is absolutely fantastic. I think I sell so much of our fiction because I myself am an avid reader. I absolutely devour any new fiction that we have, whether that's young adult fiction, whether it's middle grade. I love reading our books, and that means that I can talk about them. I can tell people what the books are about. I have quite a lot of children or parents approaching me that have additional needs, which I am obviously familiar with, having my little boy Jude, who is being diagnosed with autism. I can signpost them to books that I know that have characters in there that they'll be able to relate to, or issues that I know could help with what a child is experiencing or an interest. So that's one of my top tips, is to read our fiction, because you can sell books that you can talk passionately about. And our fiction is just so good. And I don't know if you've seen that a recent statistics that our fiction is actually climbing in popularity. So some of the monthly statistics that Lucy often shares with us shows how much people are now realising that our fiction is fantastic. Although we don't have the well-known authors like the David Williams, who I can't stand, by the way, our books are just fantastic. So definitely get reading them so that you can recommend them and talk about them passionately. So Lucy mentioned about the story adventure books. They're a definite must. My top fiction, actually, which I take, would be things like Quiet Storm, anything spooky. So how Lucy had Shadow Hall Academy, This Book Kills. If you're working with a secondary school, things like the new, just gone completely blank, the new one. It will come back to me. But yeah, anything.
Girls Lie.
Yes, thank you, Lucy. Royal Blood as well. Anything like that that's got a bit of like horror, mystery, that kind of thing, murder. For some reason, children like murder, which I don't know whether that should be like a bit worrying, but they do. Yes. So definitely look at our fiction selection as well as the non-fiction. I think it's obviously worth pointing out schools still need fiction books too. So as much of as like I advocate our fiction, have a range of books which are available to them. I don't actually tend to sell from stock at my book fairs. So most of my book fairs have been order only. I know that's potentially not the way that most people run them. But I love an order only book fair. It's so easy. There are resources available to you on tools and downloads for order forms. If you haven't got like a card reader machine, something like a SumUp or an iZettle, you definitely need one for a book fair. You can also do things to make it easy for people at the book fair, like creating a QR code if you want them to have like an express checkout, if it's just you running the book fair and you potentially got a few people who are queuing and can't wait. That's a good way to capture those people who can't necessarily stay. Make sure the schools are advertising that for you. You've obviously got on Tools and Downloads all the posters and the letters, and everything that you could possibly need is there. So you're not having to reinvent the wheel. If you are afraid of creating resources yourself, look at Tools and Downloads. Obviously, you can make your own resources, and we would encourage you to have your own personal branding on there as well. So you're selling yourself, making yourself stand out. But everything that you could need is there on Tools and Downloads, and you can adapt it to what suits you as well. I think the last thing that I wanted to say was make sure you nurture your relationships with schools. Your interactions with schools should never be a one and done. That's just not how this works. You should always be looking at this from the point of view that, yes, you're selling them a book potentially now, but how can you nurture that relationship, not just for you and your business, but how you're supporting them. And as I say, I've worked with one of my main schools now since 2016, so they've been happily partnering with me now for nearly 8 years, because I get them and I've taken the time to nurture that relationship and contacted them when it's not just about selling a book. So if ever I've seen anything like on our website or any additional free resources that I think will be helpful for them, I've pinged it across to them, or they're local to me. So often I'll nip in and I'll give them something that I found. Or next week I'm attending their assembly for their prize giving books. I'm also going to take in a thank you card and like a small box of biscuits just to thank them from working with me this year. So that was just the last thing that I wanted to say. Nurture your relationships. It's never a one and done. And I think that's me.
Thank you so much, Nicola. I think everyone here will have found that super, super useful, and also really helpful to know that you obviously have been a partner for a long time, but actually you didn't used to work with loads and loads of schools. So it's never too late to change your business and take your business in a different direction. I think your hospital schools one, I know you do a lot with them this year, is an avenue that a lot of people don't know exists, but those schools exist and those children exist, and they need resources just as much as anyone. I think you're an amazing example of how I think most people will say school fetes and fairs are not going to get you incredible sales, but it's what comes after that. And it's those direct orders don't come out of nowhere. They come from building those relationships. There's been a few questions.
Something that I did just forget to mention was, as well, going into schools is often free. So if you're doing a book fair, it's free. You're not spending a shed load of money on stall fees, and you're not having to lug a gazebo. Like if you're inside, there's so much less stress associated with it. For so long, I thought it was going to be the most stressful thing in the world, but it's actually easier than doing like an outdoor event in the middle of a field. So definitely bear that in mind too.
Yeah, really good point, that you can generally park at the school. You're not taking a gazebo, you're not taking your own tables, you're not taking things to set up with. And like Nicola said, it's free. I think school stall fees seem to be going up and up for loads of places, and you don't need to pay a stall fee to sell your books. You can go and do one in a school for free. I've seen a few questions pop up. Also, please do keep adding your questions in, because we've got a bit of time now for Nicola to answer them. So there was a question which was, how do you send your Google form out and how do you share it to get the bookings? Could you talk us a little bit through your process?
So this morning when I sent those out, so I sent it by email. I use the website Bitly to shorten my Google form link just so it looks a little bit neater. And I custom the back end of the link with book my autumn book fair with Nicola or something like that. Just so it's super obvious, like the link they're clicking on is to book me for their book fair. So this morning I just pinged it out by email to my contacts that I already have, but I also included some new schools that are local to me who I was wanting to get into. And the one that booked me this morning was a new school who I've not worked with before. So I think just because it was super easy and quick for them to do, it was literally, I'd emailed it out and within 10 minutes I had a booking.
It's amazing and really exciting. There was a question about your email address. How did you create your own email address?
So I use the website Fast Hosts. So they're a domain name provider. I think I pay something, it's really small. It's like £2.40 something a month. And that gives me my email address, which is nicola@thewhitehousebookshop.co.uk, and then also my domain name. So instead of sharing my Usborne website link, which can be like really long and messy, I actually have it on a divert. So I'm www.thewhitehousebookshop.co.uk. And when people put that in, it diverts it to my Usborne website. It just makes it look neater. So that was fasthosts.com.
Thank you very much. And then we've got, what do you do in a virtual book fair? As in, like, how do you host it? How does it work?
So I've done them mainly two different ways. So obviously we have the new system now where you can do the book fair through your website and people simply browse your website and can order through there, add stuff to their basket and pay. I don't tend to find that works very well for me. I have run it recently and it got less than when I do a traditional like Facebook style virtual party. So when I'm running them, I have the link available on the new system, but then I also set up an event on Facebook and I will have that running like quite a while in advance of the actual dates that it's happening. And I schedule posts into there saying like getting people excited. I'll often share a few of the free resources in the run up to the fair. And then for 2 days, I will have books, like images and their descriptions and their prices posting quite often. So I tend to do like a morning slot and then like an after school slot right the way through until about 8 o'clock in the evening. And it's generally posting sort of every 15 minutes, which is really, it sounds like a lot, but it's really easy to do if you've got like a Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening in front of the telly. You can literally just schedule the posts in there. And I tend to focus them around books that I think like are either on the curriculum or books that I know are normally popular at in-person fairs. And then the people just message me either by email or through Facebook. And then I send them either my bank details to pay or my PayPal or a sum up link, however they want to get the money to me. So it's essentially the same as a Facebook party, but just for a school.
Thank you. That was super helpful. Does anyone have any other questions about be good to know actually, you talked about your packs that you have. What do you put in them?
So I thought I had one down here, but I don't think I've got one made up. No. So they go out in these super bright envelopes. I cover them with Usborne stickers just to make them stand out. But I tend to just put in there one of our schools leaflets. So obviously we've got the new ones that have recently come out, so that will go in there. I put examples of what I would send if they were running a Ready Steady Read, because obviously they're so fantastic. I don't think I even really touched on Ready Steady Reads, but it's such a great way of working with a school. And when they see the amount of free books that they can potentially get, it's an absolute no-brainer. So I put that in there because obviously they're super popular. I put a covering letter about me. So it's got my photo on there. It's got a bit of an introduction about me, how long I've been working with Usborne. some testimonials from other schools that I've worked with, because that's mega important. If you are working with schools, make sure you're getting a testimonial from them. So something which I've started doing recently is another Google form, love a Google form, for feedback on the service which I've provided them. So on there is a place for them to give a testimonial. But if you haven't worked with a school, you can get testimonials from people who have. So don't be afraid from like reaching out either to your mentor if they potentially might have worked with a school, or I think there might even be some on the website that you can use as well. So on the covering letter, I have those on there as well. I'm just trying to think what else. Sometimes, depending on how flush I'm feeling, I'll print out some like additional resources. I might potentially put a little free book in if I've got some that I've had around for a while. I don't tend to bother with like the tea bag and the biscuit idea. I know lots of people do like that and it does have success, but I'm all about what you need to know and how I can work with you. So it's just making it stand out. So I think for me, the pink envelope is a big win. It's just making sure that you're on their desk in front of them. One other thing that I didn't mention was if you have any like Usborne merch, like I'm very fortunate to go to Leadership Academy, so obviously get lots of goodies. School teachers love stuff like this. So I gave 2 of these to my asset management contacts from the hospital bookings. They thought they'd won the lottery when I gave them an Usborne sippy cup. But that's going to be on their desk with them drinking their coffee from it. I put my sticker on the bottom. So they're drinking their coffee and they've got my details on there. But think of other ways as well that you can be on their desk and visible and present in their mind. Anything that stands out. So you can create your own resources, or you could send them like anything. Like I know Lucy said, like teachers don't want fluffy pens at the book fair. They might not want them at the book fair, but they love one on their desk to write with. So anything quirky that you can think of that they might like, just go with that.
Thank you. And there was a question, which was, I know you said you post over 2 days for a virtual book fair. Is that how long you usually set up the virtual book fair event for on the website?
No, I tend to have it running for longer. So although I run when I do it through Facebook, I have the 2 sort of main selling days as 2 days. It actually runs for a longer period of time because I post before and after as well. So if I was doing it on the virtual party, I would do the same. I'd have a bigger window available to them. And I always set one of those up, the virtual party, whenever I'm running an in-person event, because you'd just be silly not to, because not everybody can attend in-person events. Lots of parents obviously are working, and it's just giving them an extra way that they can participate and buy books.
We've only got a couple of minutes left. So does anyone have any final questions that they want to ask Nicola before everyone enjoys the rest of their evening? I think
Did I cover everything for you, Lucy, that you wanted me to?
I feel like you've covered everything and more. And I think I saw lots of people writing notes, nodding, taking ideas down. So I think, you have covered absolutely everything, and hopefully given people some ideas of something different to do that they've not already thought of. We've talked so many times about, getting attention. I do feel like your pink envelope is just a really good idea, and your hospital schools and your kind of summer fates. And I think it was really refreshing to hear where it's not gone so well, but what it's turned into. So potentially one of your worst events has turned into an 8-year-long relationship.
I think the thing as well is like everybody gets scared of doing something that's outside of their comfort zone, but don't let it put you off, because it will only hold you back. And then you'll be like me and you'll wish that you did it sooner. So I think that should be a major takeaway from this is that although it's going to stretch you potentially, and you're going to feel a bit scared about doing it, once you've done one, even like mine, if it didn't go well, you learn for next time. And every time you do it, you get that little bit more confident. So when I do them now, it doesn't bother me at all. I get excited to do it. The fear is like no longer there. I'm actually itching to go in and do it because I know how great our events are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, Nicola, and for taking the time to prepare that, talk to us, answer everyone's questions. And yeah, good luck. I know you've got an event on Saturday again at a school. So good luck with that. And again, key example that it's nearly the end of term and Nicola's still going out into a school. So it is definitely a year-round opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Another huge thank you to Nicola, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you all on another training session soon. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.